Your workdays used to be filled with patient care, med passes, admissions, coordinating care. But now that you're a manager, you're responsible for other things like hiring people, dealing with nurse ratchets, bad attitude, more meetings than you know what to do with, and getting the budget done on time, which, by the way, nobody really trained you for. The transition into leadership is not just a promotion, it's a whole new world, which is why I want to point out the landmines that I wish somebody flagged for me 5 years ago. Let's start with the expectations you might walk in with. Now, if you've been promoted, you might be walking around with a dangerous assumption. So you could be thinking, I've worked here for years. Maybe it's been decades. You might think, I know this unit like the back of my hand. I think I'm going to be all right here. The danger with that is not the confidence. It's just underestimating the learning curve. You see, nurses, we don't get a whole lot of education in management. What that means is there are skills that you don't even know you don't have. Those are called blind spots, and you don't want to learn about them by letting them hit you in the face. On the other hand, you might be thinking, hey, I'm actually kind of intimidated by these new responsibilities. Like, I got to deal with finances, HR and employment law, hospital politics. Am I even qualified to do this? Most likely you were promoted because you were an excellent bedside nurse. Now, you're finding that those great clinical skills are not translating to this new role. And that is all accurate expectations. And the reality is you're probably not on one or the other side of this coin. It's more likely that you're balancing some tension between confidence in what you do know and insecurity in the things you need to learn. Now, all that is bouncing around in your head. Then you start and reality hits you. So one of those big reality checks is the lack of structured training as leaders. Now, when you were a new nurse, you probably had an orientation process. You may have been assigned a preceptor. There's usually competencies that need to be documented and some degree of a process to get you from brand new to safe to practice. In most leadership roles, that's just not there. There's no preceptor. There is almost no structured program, and the competencies tend to be implied rather than defined clearly. Studies have found this to be true, that the transitions tend to be abrupt, and most organizations just don't have any sort of structured leadership development program. What makes this even harder is that your responsibilities don't really wait for you to be ready for them. Once you are the manager, you have to deal with that staffing crisis when it shows up. And you gotta have those performance conversations, whether you really know how to or not. And the budget deadline doesn't care if you've done any accounting training. So it's very easy as a new leader to underestimate the slope of the learning curve and overestimate the amount of support that you're going to get. Even if you were promised support in the hiring process, often what you were imagining and what your employer was planning to give you may not line up exactly. So if it feels like you are building the plane while you're trying to fly it, you didn't miss anything. The runway was just shorter than you expected it to be. And what makes this all even harder is that we really don't talk about this. We have a very strong sink or swim kind of culture in healthcare. Now, I probably don't have to tell you that. You've likely experienced it in your nursing career. It doesn't get any better in the leadership world. In fact, it might be even worse. We have this implicit, unspoken assumption that, if you have what it takes, you're gonna figure it out on your own because that's what we had to do. I'm not saying that that's right or that it's good, but it is reality. You will encounter that. And nobody wants to look incompetent, much less you. So that's a lot of pressure on a new leader. Secondly, what adds on to this is that you're caught in between two groups now, right? I don't have to tell you that there's tension between the frontline staff and leaders, and that the groups don't always see eye to eye in terms of perspective. But now you're not one of the frontline staff anymore. But you also don't really feel like a leader. And so that makes it hard to kind of figure out who do you go to, because you're not really in either group. And a third factor that folds in on top of all these things is our institutional obsession with academic credentials. You look around you in healthcare and it's alphabet soup all over the place, right? It feels like everybody else has more credentials than you do. That can kind of lead to a sense of inferiority. You're probably already thinking things like, well, maybe I need to go get that master's degree, or do I need to now get an MBA on top of my other degrees? Now, I'm not saying that those degrees don't have any value. I have a master's degree and it is valuable, but this implicit assumption that if you have any sort of skill gap or knowledge gap, then what you need to do is you need to go back to school and you need to get another degree or another certification. And this constant, you can never have enough credentials attitude that we have in healthcare is really a hurdle that you have to get over as a new leader and can really undermine your confidence. So stacking these things up together can really lead to a sense of isolation for new leaders. That isolation can make your normal growing pains feel like you're failing. So I know I'm kind of painting a bleak picture here, but what can actually help you with these challenges? It's really a mindset shift that we want to go through. We want to reframe how you're looking at this. It's true that nobody may show up and hold your hand through this whole thing, but that doesn't have to mean that you're stuck. You can draw your own roadmap with intention. Understand that a lot of these leadership challenges that we're talking about are really just skills that you need to learn. And some of those skills include things like, can you read your operations statement without getting lost in the numbers? Do you know the kinds of questions you can't ask in an interview? Can you write an effective and concise email? How are you with spreadsheets in Microsoft Excel? Now, you might be thinking, well, where do I go to get this if I don't have training available to me? Or where do I start? Well, a couple things. One, I want you to really break out of the box and expand your horizons outside of nursing and healthcare. Look to other industries like business, technology, manufacturing. These issues and these skills are not unique to healthcare and nursing. So you can go to other areas. And remember, it's 2026. We have the internet. I need you to look at non-traditional outlets and platforms like the one you're on, where you can get free or low-cost learning to help you build these skills. The key to this is to stop being surprised by the learning curve and start attacking it with some intention. This is new territory. Of course, you have gaps. But here is the cool thing. Gaps can be mapped. And once you have a map, you can navigate wherever you want. So if you are navigating your first leadership role and you want practical guidance on the kinds of things that nobody formally teaches about leadership, that is what I do here. So I'd love it if you'd subscribe to the channel.